All right, let's talk about project management. Specifically, how a smart, lightweight approach to automation can solve some of the biggest headaches out there. And the best part? You don't need some massive, super expensive toolkit to pull it off.
So let's just start with this core idea. Think about it. If you've ever been part of a big project that just went off the rails, you know it's almost never because the people on the team aren't skilled or aren't trying. Nope. The real problem, it's usually buried deep inside the system itself.
And here it is, the real culprit. It's the fact that the way we try to coordinate everything, all that manual work, the endless emails, the constant meetings, the follow-ups, it falls apart when things get complicated. It simply doesn't scale.
Okay, so let's really dig into this. Because before we can even talk about a solution, we have to understand the problem from the inside out, From the perspective of the one person who's right in the middle of the storm, the project manager.
I mean, look at this. The life of a PM on any big project is, well, it's relentless. They're juggling a million things at once, different vendors, competing tech stacks, all these layers of approvals. And on top of that, they're supposed to keep the master plan updated, watch the schedule like a hawk, and somehow find the time to actually get ahead of risks. It's just a massive, overwhelming coordination nightmare.
And this is where things get really interesting. It's so easy to look at all that and just say, well, the PM is just overworked. It's a workload issue. But that's missing the point. The real insight here is that it's not a workload problem. It's a systems problem. It's a governance visibility problem. You just can't see what's happening. So that brings us right to the core idea we're exploring today. We have to completely rethink why we even use automation in the first place. This isn't just about swapping out a spreadsheet for some new, shiny tool. No, this is about changing the very DNA of how governance works. And here's the magic. The real value of this kind of automation is it's quiet. It's subtle. Its job is to just sit in the background and enforce the rules that everybody already agreed to. And this is the most important part. It makes slippage visible before it blows up into a full-blown crisis.
Now, let's get something straight right away. We need to talk about what this is not. You do not need to go out and buy some crazy expensive enterprise-level PM tool. You don't need heavy customization or a team of vendors to set it up. This is all about smart logic, the kind of thing you can often build yourself, in-house, with the skills you probably already have.
So, the big question is, how do you actually build this? Well, it all boils down to 6 guiding principles. Think of them as the blueprint for a really powerful but still lightweight governance engine. Let's walk through them one by one.
Principle number 1, the status has to come from the system itself. Look, we have to get human feelings out of status reporting. We all do it, right? That little bit of optimism bias? Oh, I can catch up. Instead of asking someone if they're green, yellow, or red, the system just calculates it. No emotion, just cold, hard dates. And here's a perfect example of how that works. Check out the at-risk status. The logic is so simple. If the planned start date is today or in the past, and the task hasn't actually started, boom, it's at risk. That right there is the magic. It's an objective, super early warning signal that flags a problem before you're officially late. It's an absolute game changer.
And that idea leads us directly into principle number 2. See, it's not good enough to just know when something is already late. The real power comes from predicting when a task is likely to be late. This is how we move from being reactive, always putting out fires, to being predictive.
So how do you do that? Well, here's a really simple but surprisingly effective rule of thumb. If a task has eaten up more than 60% of the time it was supposed to take, but it's still not done, the system flags it. It says, hey, there's a high probability this thing is going to be late. It's another one of those powerful little warning signs.
Okay, principle 3 is so important because this is what gets people to actually buy in and use the system. The goal is to automate behavior, not just create a bunch of noise in everyone's inbox. This is not about spamming the team with daily updates. The automation should actually reduce noise. Alerts only go out when something meaningful happens, a status flips to at risk or a delay probability crosses that line. Every single notification has to have a real purpose.
Which brings us to escalations. We've all been there, right? The late, emotional, totally inconsistent escalations. This approach gets rid of all that. Instead, you build a predictable, progressive ladder. It's a clear, transparent path. A task is at risk for 3 days, the domain lead gets a gentle reminder. Delay probability gets high, okay, now the PM gets notified. Everyone knows the rules of the game from day one, which makes the whole process feel fair and, frankly, less personal.
Now, for any of this to actually work, the logic has to understand ownership and escalation can't feel like a public shaming. Nobody wants that. It has to go to the right person at the right level at the right time. The system is smart enough to only notify the next person up the chain. It keeps the communication focused and, honestly, respectful. This is absolutely key if you want people to adopt it.
And finally, principle number 6. This adds a nice layer of intelligence to the whole thing. Let's face it, not all tasks are created equal. Some are way more important than others. So, by giving each task a criticality, high, medium, or low, the system can adjust its own rules. High criticality stuff? That escalates fast. Low criticality items? The system can tolerate a little slippage. This is what prevents governance overload and keeps the whole team focused on what really, truly matters.
So, when you take all 6 of these principles and you put them together, what actually happens? Well, the role of the project manager is completely, fundamentally transformed.
Think about the old reality. This is where so many PMs live. Their entire day is spent chasing people down for updates, running status meetings that are just about information gathering, and constantly reacting to the latest fire. They accidentally become this bottleneck for communication instead of being the person who drives progress forward.
But now, in this new reality, with smart automation handling all that tedious follow-up and tracking, the PM's role gets elevated. They're freed up to focus on the things that humans are uniquely good at: getting ahead of risks, making sure stakeholders are all on the same page, and making those tough, valuable trade-off decisions. Meetings stop being about what's the status and start being about what should we do. The PM goes from being a task chaser to a real delivery leader.
And that brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway from all of this.
Here it is. This is not about replacing leadership with automation. It's about using automation to protect leadership's time. It's about letting the machines do the boring, repetitive, thankless work of chasing things down so that human leaders can spend their precious, limited time on the hard stuff, the complex problems that actually require their judgment and expertise.
So I want you to just think about that for a second. In your own work, on your own projects, what could you achieve? What big strategic goals, what new ideas, what hidden risks could you finally tackle if the system itself was protecting your single most valuable asset, your time to actually lead?